call the school board meeting to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remind board members that to key your mics when you're going to speak. Points of pride. Superintendent?
Great week last week. We had quite a few Halloween parades. We were able to go out to Antrim Elementary School, who parades right down and around. That was wonderful. We were not able to make it out to Dublin, but they did their Halloween parade, and everybody had a wonderful time. Additionally, we had a great day today. Today was a professional development day, and the high school in particular did a full day on safety. So little light on points of pride today because we have a big meeting, but those are our points of pride.
Thank you. Approval of the manifest. Brian?
As certified, the manifest listed below totaling $4,832,246.83 have been reviewed by me and found to be proper charges against the Catucut Valley School District for goods and services received and have been properly processed prior to their submittal to the school board.
I move a motion.
Move that we approve the manifest.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. At this point in our agenda, we have time set aside for public comment. We allow the public to speak, individuals for 2 minutes. When you come up, if you would please come to the center chair with a mic and you can key the mic. Please tell us who you are and what town you're from so we can put that in our minutes. So, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Naomi Tucker. I live in Peterborough, and I'm the parent of a 5th grader at SMS. I'm also a psychotherapist and a community member, and in all of these roles, I see the impact of the early start times. And I want to highlight that I know this has been a topic that has been included in the consolidation process, looking at that. But I also want to distinguish that this topic is important no matter the outcome of the consolidation process. Research clearly shows that it's beneficial for youth to start school later. They get more and better quality sleep, better mental and physical health, improved academic outcomes, reduced risk of car accidents and injuries, improved athletic performance, fewer late arrivals and absences. Change can be hard, and often we humans fear it, maybe even more than I fear public speaking. Check out my shaking hands. But once we adjust to change, it can be a relief. Relief for the high schooler working at CVS, who told me she only gets to sleep for 4 hours by the time she finishes her homework and finishes working. It's hard for her to wind down and go to sleep in time to wake up early. Relief for the students I know who have trouble winding down themselves after homework and activities and falling asleep in time, in enough time to get enough sleep before the early wake up. And then they fall asleep on the bus and in class. And relief for a kid I know who showers and gets dressed at night in order to be ready for the bus early in the morning. One recent morning, this kid went to their dresser to get a pair of socks to put on, accidentally pulled out underwear, didn't realize their mistake until they looked down and had put their underwear on over their clothes. Kids are struggling with these early wake-ups. So let's follow the research to relief. I urge you to prioritize the physical, emotional, and mental well-being of the youth of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess before I go into my second topic, yes, it is. Wholeheartedly agree with her, although my children aren't there yet. So, my name is John Wood. I live in Dublin, New Hampshire. I have a second and fourth grader at Dublin Elementary School. My wife and I moved here about 22 months ago. And one of the things we moved after leaving Washington, D.C. and moving here, one of the most important things on our agenda was the school for my two children. I am concerned that this school board is not providing the citizens of the holistic 9 towns, whether their kids are in school or they're tax-paying citizens who do not have children, all of the relevant information for us to be able to make an informed decision as citizens on what you're planning on doing. Everything I've read up to this point said we'll provide you more detail in December. And at that point, we'll make a decision on the vote to then create a warrant article. I worked for the government for almost 20 years. I worked at the Pentagon. There was a common saying that the DOD doesn't have enough money to do it right the first time, but they have enough money to do it 6 times wrong. I understand that the school board has attempted to do consolidation in the past and it failed. I urge you to take your time, provide the detail and the data to us who are responsible for voting for this, making sure we have all the relevant details, all the analysis, understanding what schools have extra space, what schools don't have extra space. How many students to teacher ratio are we supposed to have? What's the expected ratio supposed to be? None of this information has been provided up to this point. I've seen what it costs for a student to go to Peterborough Elementary School versus the cost of Dublin versus the cost of Francistown and Bennington, Temple. But you haven't provided us as parents or taxpayers any relevant information and the detail of how you got all of that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, anyone else who would like to address the board? Yes, ma'am. If the light is green, it means the mic is hot.
Thank you. And I will echo some of what the previous speaker said. I want to thank you for the information gathering you've done so far. Ideally, you do have a lot of information to digest, especially since each community and school district is quite different. Evidently, there was more input from some communities, which may skew the results. And also, it's very difficult to contact all community members in all communities in a manner that will elicit the largest number of replies. In my opinion, your next steps are to use the information gathered to develop several viable options to compare with the status quo, and then present those options with specific information to the public. You need to explain clearly to each community why a particular option would be best. If the plan is to close a particular school or to reconfigure a particular school, combine some schools or some other options, you must get buy-in from the communities where those schools exist. They must understand the educational rationale for each move, along with any hoped for financial benefits. If a school is to be closed, are there possible future uses for the building? Maybe daycare, senior care, community services? Who knows? General questions on a survey are not truly indicative of public opinion. You can use them as starting points, but you must then develop options with specific possible solutions and then work with each community and the Conval district as a whole to find an option or options that will satisfy the stated goals of educational excellence for all and fiscal responsibility. I think you've made a good start, but far more community engagement is necessary to develop a solution that is beneficial for the students academically and socially, while at the same time addressing the very real fiscal challenges of public education. Rushing to include a question to vote at a town meeting in 2024 seems ill-advised to me. I don't know that there is sufficient time between now and the late December or early January deadline to come up with a plan that will succeed at all of the town meetings. While it's important to address the issue quickly, a rushed and somewhat vague proposition is doomed to fail. Please take the time to meet with the communities, maybe several times during this next year. Listen to their concerns and their ideas. Explain the possible solutions and how they might benefit from them. Also explain how such changes will benefit them.
Ma'am, do you have much more? Pat,
No,
way back.
I'm on my
Okay, go
last
ahead and finish up,
sentence.
please.
I'm sorry. I had to write it so I could say it.
That's okay. Go ahead and finish up.
Okay, where was I? Also explain how the changes will benefit the entire Conval district. Ideally, by taking this time, you will dispel some of the frustration and the sentiment that whatever happens is already a done deal and doesn't truly address the feelings of the public. You will get a majority in each town to agree if it's a jointly made decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak to the board? All right, seeing no one else. Oh, Greg, you want to speak? Well, you can speak right there.
Greg
Are
Green,
you speaking as a board member?
I'm
or-
speaking as a resident of
Okay.
Peterborough, so I can move if you'd like me to move. Greg Griebel, town of Peterborough, father of 2 Conval graduates and pediatrician here in town, and former member of a committee that looked at starting school early. I would wholeheartedly support your all's efforts to start school, everything you said as far as social, emotional, physical, safety. All those are absolutely research-based and absolutely true. So, and it is also part of our current 5-year plan. So I would encourage the board to look at that and follow these ladies' lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. There's a second element within our agenda for public comment at the end of our agenda. And we'll certainly do that before we go into non-public. So thank you all for coming and sharing. Reports. Student representative, Lucy.
Okay. So there's been a lot going on at the high school over the last couple of weeks. Last Friday there was a blood drive. So that was a really good thing that student council did. On Monday, in 2019, they started the Yellow Tulip Project, and it bloomed sadly when we were all at home. So we planted, NHS did that, and we planted the tulips in the front apron. So hopefully those will bloom in the springtime. And then another thing that NHS is doing next week is a week of service. So this was kind of like the kickoff to it, was planting tulips, and then we're doing a whole bunch of things like teacher appreciation. We're actually coming down to work with end 68 Hours of Hunger for a day. So there's a bunch of fun things for students to participate in the school to help with community service. And then last week, elementary school students came and watched the play at the high school, and it was really fun to see all the kids walking around Conval. And they were all really excited to be here, which was really cool. And then another thing is field trips. So tomorrow the German and Spanish programs are going to UNH, and then on Thursday the U.S. history and other social studies classes are going to Salem to look at the witches. So that's really cool. And then 2 weeks ago, the German program, we went to Rivermead, and we all wore dirndls and lederhosen, and sung to the residents. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff happening at the high school.
Thank you, Lucy. And just for the audience, we always allow our student rep at her leisure to depart whenever she wants. We don't have homework, she does. Policy Committee, Catherine.
Okay, so the policy committee met, I can't even think now, I was trying to look it up. Don't know, a couple weeks ago now, so I apologize for that. We have gone through the fall policy update, so that is based on all the laws that have been updated on the state or federal level, based on last legislative session here in New Hampshire or any federal law we have to update. So we've prioritized those policies and how we're going to look at them and try to bring them forward. And then tonight we have 3 policies for a first read, no second read policies tonight. So if anyone has any questions or comments on those policies, I would encourage you to send them to me so that the policy committee can make sure that they explore that. Thank you.
And you're up again, Catherine, for Selectman Advice.
I'm up again. 2 in a row, lucky me. So the Selectmen Advisory Committee met this month and we talked a little bit about some very early budget discussions. We went over the Reconfiguration Project and provided them an update with all the information, as we have been every month, how we've been moving forward and proceeding with that. And we will meet again, I believe, one more time before the holidays. I'm not quite sure if we will meet, but we will not most likely be meeting in December.
Thank you, Catherine. Any questions from board members on either? All right. Alan, Strategic Organization Committee, please.
I'm Alan Edelkine, School Board Representative from Dublin. And thanks everybody for attending this meeting. I have to get used to the little thing here, so be careful. And for taking the time to listen to our presentation on the activities that have taken place, are in process, and will take place on the consolidation reconfiguration process. We are 3 of the members of the School Board Strategic Organization Committee, which was formed to organize and lead this project. There will be 3 board members presenting tonight. Me, Dan Harper, Conval School Board Representative from the town of Hancock, and Tom Burgess, Conval School Board Representative from the town of Peterborough. The other 2 SOC school board members are Liz Swan, Conval School Board Representative from the town of Temple, and Dick Dunning, Conval School Board Representative from the town of Peterborough, and our esteemed leader. My portion of this presentation is to let you know about our goals and objectives, keeping the public informed, and the approach we are taking to controlling this project. Dan will present the activities taken to select our partner company, the data gathering phase and the data analysis phase, listing each activity and the start and end dates. Tom will present the recommendation phase, listing each activity and the start and end dates also. Conval is a very large, complex public school organization. The 9 towns that make up the district, Antrim, Bennington, Dublin, Francistown, Greenfield, Hancock, Peterborough, Sharon, and Temple, joined together in 1967 and established a set of Articles of Agreement. Currently, the cooperative district covers over 250 square miles and incorporates 11 schools, 8 elementary schools, 4 are pre-K through 4, 4 are K through 4, 2 middle schools, both 5 through 8, and 1 regional high school, grades 9 through 12. All of our member towns host an elementary school with the exception of Sharon. Sharon's elementary school, elementary students attend Peterborough Elementary School. The District Central Administration Unit, SAU, is housed as part of the South Meadow Middle School in Peterborough. The school board is made up of 13 representatives from the 9 towns. We are residents just like you. Decisions that we make affect us just like they do you. We pay the same taxes, have had worked children in the Conval school system, and work or have worked the same way you do. The only difference is that we give freely of our time, our knowledge, and energy to ensure the educationally rich, community-friendly, and fiscally sound environment to the students of Conval and the Conval community. Today's listening session format. If you notice, I did say the listening session format and didn't say participate. That is for 2 very valid reasons. This venue is a school board business meeting, and as such, an interactive dialogue between school board members and the public is outside the procedures for this meeting. Most important is that we will be presenting the activities that make up this project and not the results of any of the activities, details. There's a significant difference in these two. Presentation of activity results will take place at future meetings. Our commitment to the Conval community. We made a commitment to be open, transparent, and involve the community. This presentation will demonstrate our actions on this commitment. We also want to note that no decision has been made as to the recommendation that will be produced from this project. We would also like to express our appreciation for the time you have taken to be involved in this project and to attend this meeting. Our project processes and objectives. Every formal project has goals and objectives and processes involved in achieving them. A goal is an achievable outcome that is generally broad and longer term, while an objective is shorter term and defines measurable actions to achieve the overall goal. Goals can be intangible and non-measurable, but objectives are defined in terms of tangible targets. For example, the goal to provide excellent customer service is intangible, but the objective to reduce customer wait time to 1 minute is tangible and helps in achieving this goal. While the project's goals are easy to state, the project's objectives are not, which is why these terms are usually used together and interchangeably. I will now do so we don't get stuck on technology. Our specified project goals and objectives. Our goals and objectives in this project are: provide the most educationally rich, community-friendly, fiscally responsible physical environment possible that reflects the values and desires of the Conval community. Be open and transparent in all activities. Engage the community. Communicate. Develop a report that recommends actions and sequences needed to take place. Engage an outside firm at a reasonable price that has the knowledge, expertise, and impartiality to assist Conval in this project. Establish reasonable target dates. Our schools are under-enrolled and our current physical environment is not sustainable. Well, how did we get here? From 2014 and perhaps prior, the topic of enrollment, the delivery of educational services, and the annual budget and capital facility needs has been discussed. In more recent years, the district has looked at the issue more carefully, even compiling reports created internally and shared with the board to highlight trends being tracked as part of the educational and financial processes. I now want to turn the presentation over to Dan Harper.
Thank you, Alan. Can you advance the slide, please? I just have a couple of slides. Okay, this gives you a step-by-step outline of how we got to where we are today. As you can see from step one, we started the process in September of 2022. Actually, this idea has been kicked around for years. We finally decided it was time to get this initiative out of the gate, and we started that in September 2022, and we looked up requests for information from various companies that have done this before, consultants. We had RFPs go out, and that was in the month of February. And we narrowed the choice down to 4 different vendors. We started with about 10 in phase 1. And then when we reviewed the RFPs, that took us up until the end of March of 2023. And then we narrowed the choice down to 3 or 4, maybe 2 at that point. We kept the public informed with our first communication. It was in the papers, sent to the different towns. The select boards received information. And that should say April 2023, by the way. That's not April 2022. Sorry for the misprint on that. And then we started the process with interviewing vendors. And that was a 2-month process. We settled on a company called Prismatic, which some of you have met and worked with and communicated with. And then we started the project, the phase with the public in June of 2023. Alan, do you mind advancing that? Oh, I got it. Okay, so then we started gathering information. We developed a plan in January of 2023. We met with the Selectmen's Advisory Board. They knew exactly what we were planning to do. We talked to them about every step we were taking. The towns were all on board, and they were going to do their part in communicating to their different towns. From September 19th to October 5th, we had individual town meetings where the purpose was to receive input from the community, thoughts, concerns, and alternatives to current physical structure. So each town met in the multi-purpose room of each school during that phase. There was interviews with different staff members, focus groups, and student staff, teachers, administration were all interviewed. We had an online survey run for 2 weeks, and the input was fantastic. We had about 700-800 different people respond. People let us know their concerns, alternatives to the current physical structure. We had an online forum from October 23rd to the 27th, and we continued to receive input and respond to questions and thoughts from the community. We also had a follow-up online survey that ran from October 23rd to the 27th, where we continued to receive input from the community to their thoughts, concerns, and their on the physical structure. Okay, so the data analysis is an ongoing situation. We received the input. We're reviewing it with the Prismatic consultants, and we're continuing with interviews and focus groups, and that's where we are today. And I'm going to turn this over to Tom.
Thank you, Dan. So the recommendation phase is what we're moving into now. Prismatic has been gathering data, And I want to just review the data gathering that they've done because it's been quite extensive. Prismatic has interviewed all the school board members, collected data from the school district with an initial data request of 96 items, then additional data items as the study progressed. Completed 20 interviews with district staff. Some staff were interviewed multiple times. Visited the schools 58 separate times, not including the visits for town meetings. Covering all the schools and typically involving short informal interviews with principals and other staff. Completed 6 focus groups with students, which included 19 Great Brook students, 17 South Meadow students, and 15 Conval High School students. Completed 9 focus groups with district staff, with a total of 54 participants. Administered a student survey that received 201 responses, 40 from Great Brook, 97 from South Meadow, 4 Dublin 5th graders, and 60 Conval High School students. Administered a September staff parent community survey that received 1,555 responses, including 483 parent responses, 138 staff responses, and sufficient responses from each of the 9 towns for analysis. Administered an October parent community survey that received 405 responses. Hosted 9 town meetings with a total of 472 participants. Hosted an online forum that received 69 individual comments and questions, plus numerous emojis indicating agreement or disagreement. Prismatic staff, all told, spent a total of 60 days on site conducting interviews, focus groups, completing classroom observations, evaluating facilities, assessing technology usage, assessing food service technology operations, gathering data, hosting the town meetings, and getting ready to present their results. And that's where we are now. The data review is almost complete. And then as you see, they will write a proposal for us the second half of this month. We will get the proposal that they present at the end of the month and the beginning of December. We will review the proposal they made over the course of a week. December 4th through the 8th, the proposal will be distributed to the community and the Conval district at large. Community forum on the proposal will be held on December 12th. It'll be online, in-house, and interactive. The board will vote on the proposal on December 14th. If a warrant article is necessary, it will be developed and written in the second half of December, and then reviewed at the deliberative session in January next year, and then the community will vote March 2024. And a final note, this you can't read. So Catherine, it's so small. It's a whole bunch of websites that you can go for more information. Catherine Heck, one of our board members, made a whole bunch of little handouts for the people in the audience to take home with all the different websites listed. And this will also be available on the filmed school board meeting, which is going to be available tomorrow morning. And to find it, go to YouTube and type in Conval events, all one word. And then the Conval channel will come up with all the school board meetings, including this one. And then you can see all these different websites that you can go for more information of what's happened and what's going to happen, or submit questions, find out, ask for more information. We want to thank you for being involved and participating. And I want to read one final note. Remember, we are Conval. Each resident in the community, from student and parents to voters, are all stakeholders, not only in this project, but in all our regular operations. We maintain a comprehensive website with not only student and family-centered information, but information to help all members of the broader community stay updated and informed. From meeting minutes, agendas, to our budget process and documents to contacting your local elected school board representative, our website is up to date. We regularly post information around all topics we feel we should communicate. You can watch our meetings live or later, as I mentioned, on YouTube. Please consider accessing this information directly from the school board while we make every effort to get articles in the paper and use some social media when possible. This is a reliable and accurate way to keep a digital record and to share important upcoming news. Printed copies of this slide are in the back of the room, just what I mentioned before, or you can get it on the YouTube channel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, Tom, Alan. Hopefully that is information that will be helpful to everybody in the community. So I appreciate your efforts, particularly Alan, who we all know has done a great job steering the ship in the right direction. Aaron, Delegate Assembly, you're going to give us information on your presentation there.
Yes, I just wanted to give an update on what happened with the delegate assembly. In general, all of the choices that the board voted for were what happened at the delegate assembly with two deviations, I guess you could say. The first one was that they came with an amendment prepared to the first item that we addressed, and the proposed amendment was what passed. I abstained from that vote since we had voted not to support the initial one. But the proposed amendment was that the NHSBA opposes any legislation that divests local school boards of original jurisdiction relative to complaints about local curriculum, instruction, and instructional resources such as books, library materials, and other instructional resources. Further, NHSBA opposes any legislation that subjects school district staff to civil lawsuits and sanctions relative to curriculum and instruction, and that was what passed. And then number 17, there were some minor adjustments to wording that didn't affect the impact of the original amendment, and so that the amended alternative was what passed for that one.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yep.
Questions from board members? Okay, seeing none. Consent agenda. Any questions from board members on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. We'll move the consent agenda forward. Superintendent, your report, please.
Great. So I'm actually going to set myself up to do a little presentation for you and invite the CFO of Monadnock Community Hospital up. So you may know Rich Scheinblum. Rich is the Monadnock Community Hospital's CFO, and we are here this evening to share with you a really exciting partnership. I'm going to find this presentation. So, we are here to talk a little bit about Postbot. So, we are partnering together with the hospital and Mara Health, New Hampshire, to bring this to our school district. And to start by why we started about this.
So just a little, can everyone hear me? I was approached by AmeriHealth Care Plus, their chief medical officer, Robert Hoffman, he actually used to be a physician at NCH. About partnering an evidence-based civic society prevention program with Andal, AmeriHealth Care Plus, and NCH.
so folks know, America Health Care is one of the managed Medicaid companies that service the Medicaid. We had numerous meetings with multiple, with Kimberly, the whole compound administration. Give some information of same thing. Reason why this is suicides. We at the hospital. Mental health patients. See this practice. Peer-to-peer school-based program that aims to reduce youth suicide through education, community partnerships, and cultural change. Program outcomes include a reduction of youth suicide and stigma surrounding mental health challenges, increased referrals to parents or other trusted adults, and improvement of mental health knowledge, skills, and self-efficacy of Hope Squad members. Some background, it was first implemented in 2004 at Timpview High School in Provo, Utah. Hope Squads are now in over 1,600 schools in the United States and Canada. The program has been successfully implemented in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. The program closely partners with schools, communities, and mental health agencies to change the public conversation about suicide and mental health. So just so folks know, it is in 43 states now, this program. It's also in Canada, Ghana, Africa, South Korea. There's 45,000 Hope Squad members, and there's been over 8,000 students referred for help through this program. And I'm pleased to say that if Conval does go ahead and do this, Conval would be the first school district in New Hampshire to actually have a Hope Squad. So I'm going to turn it back over to Kimberly.
So when Rich first called to talk to me about this on Carrie Coates, at first Carrie and I were like, oh, what? We have suicide, we have signs of suicide, we have NAMI Connect, we do mental health first aid. We're in good shape as far as PD and programming is concerned. But because we have a long history of a great relationship with the hospital, I said, okay, well, let's hear what you have to say. But this is very different. So I'm going to share with you a whiteboard from Hope Squad to give you an idea of how it's different. Because this isn't really about training adults or even students in the signs of suicide. It's really about creating a tiered approach.
It worked this afternoon. There you go. Suicide is a root cause of death in the human 19 years old. Thousands of people are lost to suicide.
warning signs they're distressed. Most youth will tell a friend or give a warning sign that they are struggling, but many of their friends do not tell an adult. A Hope Squad is a group of students nominated by their peers as good listeners and caring fellow students. They work closely with their local mental health agency. Hope Squad members are taught by school advisors on how to recognize suicide warning signs in their peers and provide support. Hope Squad members are trained on how to talk to a fellow struggling student. If the peer needs help, they listen and then try to convince them to go see an adult in the school. If that does not work, they inform the school counselor about their concerns about their peers, so the counselor can contact the student and the parents for additional help and support. Hope Squad members also bring suicide prevention awareness to the entire school by holding an annual Hope Week, when fellow peers are given information about suicide prevention. For more information, please visit hopesquad.com.
Let's see if I can do this backwards now. Great. So I think what's important to recognize is that the goals. I'm still playing. So the goals of Hope Squad is to create a safe school environment, to promote connectedness, not just with the adults in the building, but with the other students in the building, to support anti-bullying, and we are going to talk a little bit about that in a bit, to encourage mental wellness, to reduce the stigma of mental health issues, and to prevent substance misuse. Because it's been around since 2004, we are very fortunate because we get to really better understand what research, it is considered an evidence-based, research-based program. And what both most recent findings have found is that Hope Squad schools have less mental health stigma. They actually have less suicide-related stigma, and they also have that stigma among specifically males in Hope Squad schools showed a downward trend as compared to non-Hope Squad schools. Hope Squad schools had significantly more referrals from all students compared to non-Hope Squad schools. So what that really is telling us is that the students who are in a Hope Squad school are more likely to be able to not just know where the help is, but to get referred to that help because of the partnership that's created. What happens is our mental health provider would be the hospital, and we would be able to help, the advisors and students would be able to help refer students to the hospital, hopefully avoiding that 2 weeks in the ED.
So the impact of suicide is far-reaching and affects entire communities. When cities, mental health organizations, and schools work together for youth suicide prevention, the entire community is strong. We speak a common language. We are educated to understand warning signs and recognize who's at risk. We gain common understanding. We know how to intervene and what to do. We have common knowledge. We know how to access resources, where to go for help. Working together, there's hope that suicide can be prevented. So this is just to show what I said about the common understanding and common language, training, and Black. So, Hope Squad members, there's usually teams of 8 to 10 students per grade called Hope Squads. And what's interesting about this is they're actually selected by their peers. It's not a popularity contest. there's certain questions that they ask around is the person, empathetic, that type of thing. And then the students actually vote on who becomes the Hope Squad member, who becomes the Hope Squad members. They're overseen by school staff dedicated to the program. There's training for that, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's treated just like any other course or after school sort of activity, like German club, Spanish club, that type of thing. Hope Squad members receive extensive training in question, persuade, and refer, suicide warning signs, peer outreach, and self-care. They identify and respond to peers in need, then provide warm handoffs to school staff and local mental health agencies. Hope Squad members also coordinate a yearly school-wide event called Hope Week. This week is dedicated to suicide prevention awareness and mental wellness activities, and Hope Squad members play an active role in educating their family and friends on issues related to suicide prevention and mental health. Besides Hope Week, Hope Squads organize school-wide activities to not only share what they learn, but to promote inclusion and connectedness within the school.
So what the Hope Squad program looks like is different at our different levels. There is nothing under fourth grade. And so for elementary, from fourth to sixth grade, it's really, the program is really about resiliency, anti-bullying, and mental wellness. Starting in third grade, there is a focus on suicide prevention, boundaries, and self-care, and that continues into the high school. And those 3 years, and 4 years are how long they consider the program. So for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, no, sorry, middle school 4, 5, 6, or middle school 6, 7, 8, and then high school 9, 10, 11, 12. So these are the focuses of each of those years. We do want to share this with you. It is about the program in general, and then we'll share some information about implementation.
If you're a New Hampshire homeowner, then 2023 is your last
Last chance for what? In
you for your patience as we learn our new presentation system. In high schools across the country, a crisis. Who here knows somebody personally who's contemplated suicide? Wow. Every single one of you. Suicide now the second leading cause of death between the ages of 10 and 18. For Utah Principal Dr. Greg Hudnall, it's more than statistics after he was called to identify the body of one of his 14-year-old students.
I literally threw up and sobbed. I made a vow that I would do everything that I could to help prevent suicide.
He founded Hope Squad, a way to help kids change how they talk about mental illness.
Those young people feel like they're the only one, that they're embarrassed, they're struggling.
The program gives students the tools to recognize those in need and get them help.
I don't think that most people understand that people do say that they're going to commit suicide most of the time before they do.
There are now more than 500 squads across 18 states and Canada. Another 100 will begin next year.
We're having this connection now, we're having this relationship now, and I care about you.
Students are chosen by their peers and specially trained, meeting regularly. This is Hope Squad's first year in Mason, Ohio, and the first year without a suicide since Abby Gadio started at the school 4 years ago.
Do you think Hope Squad has saved lives this year? For sure. I think that because of Hope Squad, we get to those students early enough.
That stigma is breaking down. Students are willing to accept help.
Fifth grader Valerie Golvar recently spoke up when she saw a friend was cutting herself.
She told me about it and said, "Don't tell anyone." And my immediate reaction was to go straight to a Hope Squad advisor or an adult.
A move that may have made all the difference for that student and her peers.
The best part about Hope Squad is just knowing that you're able to help
and hope at a time they need it most. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, Mason, Ohio.
NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here.
So that the Hope Squad pieces are important for the health and safety of our students. And I am, but it isn't obviously without a cost. But we are going to partner. It is, I will tell you, not a overnight one and dime piece. This is a 5-year process for the high school, a 4-year process for the middle schools, and eventually we are hoping to add Antrim to that, the Antrim 4th grade, as a pilot to see what 4th grade would look like. But I'm gonna let the CFO talk about the money.
So in order to implement the programs, there's certain fees every single year until you get to an ongoing fee, which is about $500. In addition, it's called licensed advisor training. Nobody's licensed, but they do get training. We put in 12 people to be trained as advisors, and that can be done via Zoom. Seems to be the most cost-effective way to do it. So the total over the 5 years, we estimate to be about $22,660. AmeriHealth Care costs in the hospital is willing to fund that cost for this program.
And one of the reasons that they're willing to do that is because they know that this is something they're seeing our students in their ED, they're seeing students in a variety of clinical settings, and they want to make sure that help is more immediate than just
behavioral health and mental health services are in our community benefits plan, one of the top things that the community says that needs to be addressed.
So we are happy to answer questions. This is really informational for you. This year is a planning year. Nothing will be implemented. And we can bring back an implementation plan when, in sometime around May. Do you guys have questions for us? No questions. Okay, all right. Thank you for being tolerant of the technology struggles. Thank you, Mr. Scheinblum. And thank the hospital and America for their generosity.
Thank you for all your public service.
Thank you, Rich. So board members, if you have thoughts, questions, please bring them forward to the superintendent. I personally think that after what I've seen, this is well worth us looking into and proceeding forward and looking at what the plans might look like for implementation. So I'll let you know too, just so you know. So seeing there are no questions around the whole program, let me move on to calendar of events.
Events calendar. We're in on November 7th, which is so very hard to believe that it is already November 7th. And we are at the school board meeting this evening. Just a reminder that district is closed in the observance of Veterans Day. I understand we have quite a few veterans in the room right now, and thank you for your service. We have a school board meeting also next week on the 14th. I believe Dick discussed that on Saturday at the workshop. The budget and property meeting is in the process of being rescheduled. 5:45. Okay. Okay, and then the district will be closed starting the 21st in the afternoon through the holiday. There's a policy committee on the 28th, and there is a Selectmen's Advisory Committee on the 30th. December returns pretty much to the same calendar that we usually have. The first and the third Tuesday are both school board meetings, and there is a budget and property meeting on the 19th. The district does close on the 22nd and is closed through the 26th and closes again on the 29th and doesn't reopen until the 1st. The last thing that I need, reopen to the 2nd.
I noted that there's no policy committee meeting
I think-
listed for that month
It's probably just not been scheduled because the day that it usually would be is
well.
closed. We're closed. So Tuesday, you need to decide today. This is a decision you must make before you leave the room. That we proposed on the administration proposed that the 9th be the public hearing for the budget, with the 16th as the snow date. The 16th is the last day to hold the budget hearings. So the 9th is the Tuesday between the 1st and the 3rd. The 2nd is a school board meeting. I wasn't sure we would be ready on the 2nd, nor was I entirely sure it would be fair to people to have them come out on the 2nd for a budget hearing. And then we have proposed the 6th as February as the deliberative session, with the 7th as the snow date. You just need to tell me if that's okay. Thumbs up is fine.
Those dates look fine with you, all right? Okay, fine.
Great. And if anyone has any questions on the why and how of that timeline, we did include the DRA information. You can see I am working on the requests that you asked me around the budget in conjunction with the administration, particularly Brian, who hasn't left his office in 3 days. But I don't have any other outstanding school board requests to my knowledge. Okay, great. November 1st enrollment update is in your packet. You also saw that on Saturday. And then finally, I will tell you that the legislative session is in full swing. And there are presently 182, because 2 were withdrawn, potential LSRs that could impact our public schools. Their range everything from right to know to EFAs, to funding, to school board voting, and et cetera, et cetera. I am able to provide you with an oversight of those if you so desire. I just need to know so I can get that together.
I would encourage you to bring forward those to the board.
Perfect.
Oversight.
I will share a spreadsheet with you. And that is the report from Superintendent. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Forrest. I just checked it off like we had done it.
Yeah, student achievement. Dr. Forrest?
Okay, good evening. So you have the school board members have a copy of this presentation in their shared drive, your folder for tonight. But I'm going to present on state data and some of our district data. So just for a quick overview, this is a graph that's showing the percent of our students who are proficient or above on state assessments for reading and math for the last 3 years. So this is all students combined. So we have goals to increase proficiency at all grade levels. So we aren't where we want to be, but we are seeing a trend going up. This is the data from this, or the most recent state assessment, which was given last spring. And the white is Conval data, and the gray is state data. And for each grade level, we gave the percent proficient for all students, and then we broke it out. So we also gave the percent proficient for students with IEPs, as well as students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So in this, I think one of the standout areas is in our grade 3, where 58% of our third graders are proficient in reading, as compared to 46 at the state level. I think the other standout here, and this is something that we've been paying attention to as a district, we've been concerned that our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, not enough of them are scoring in the proficient range, but when compared to the percent of students at the state level, we're seeing that that's a positive. So in grade 3, 41% of our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch qualified as proficient, while only 26 at the state level. And in grade 4, 37% of our students scored, who qualify for free and reduced lunch, scored proficient or above, compared to 29. So at almost all of the grade levels, we're seeing our percentage of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch is higher than the percentage at the state level. So this is again the state assessment data for reading by grade level, and it shows this year as well as the last 2 years. So we are seeing some nice upward trends in some of our grades, particularly 3rd and 6th. Again, this is this year's state, or this year as in the most recent from last spring, the state data for math. And again, the Conval data is in white, while the state data is shaded gray. And for each grade level, we've again included all students, the percent of all students who scored proficient or above, and then broke out for each grade level the percentage of our students who have an IEP who are proficient and above, and our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch that score proficient or above. We see when compared to the state, we at most grade levels we're 0 to 4 percentage points difference when compared to the state. This is the math state data for this year compared to the last 2 years. So you can see in grades 4 to 8, we have a nice kind of upward trajectory. So not where we want to be. We want more students scoring proficient or above, but we are seeing some upward trends. Here we have our NWA data. So this is a district assessment that we give to students in grades kindergarten through 10th. Kindergartners do not take it in the fall, so we report out on fall to fall. You'll see that I've shaded grade 1 and grade 2. There's a primary version of this assessment, and which is read aloud to students. So we do, I think it's important to distinguish, it's not the same test, even though it's in the same table. So sometimes we do see some drops when they move to the regular NWA and it's no longer read to them. So this is our current grade 1 students. So 65% of them scored at the 50th percentile or above on reading, and 62% scored at the 50th percentile or above on math. And again, when we look at, we keep our eye on our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, as well as our students who have an IEP, because they are more vulnerable populations. And we want to increase the percent of those students who are scoring at the 50th percentile and above. If anyone has any questions, feel free to. Yes.
So, Dr. Forrest, so we'll just say we're using current grade 1. What percentage of the grade 1 students in the district actually take the test? I mean, we're talking 100% or 100% of the IEP students taking this test, 100% of the free and reduced lunch, or is it 40 out of 100, 70 out of 100? Do you have any idea approximately where we are per grade?
I could get the specifics for you. We're not at 100%. But we're very close. The expectation is that all students would take NWA. We do have some students that it would just not be appropriate for, and in that case, we're not going to have a student do something that wouldn't be appropriate, that would have no value as far as the results. But I'm happy to pull that exact information. But I would expect it to be 95% or above.
That's plenty, thank you.
So here's our grade 2, and you're seeing, so now we're following cohorts. This is for the most part the same group of kids. Of course, some students move in, some students move out, so it's not exactly the same group of students, but this is the group that were first graders last year that are now second graders, so that you can look at differences year to year. So we saw a drop in reading and an increase in math. So here's our third grade. So you're now not seeing the second and first grade data for them, because again, that's a different it's an NWA test, but it's the primary version, and that's read to them, so it really doesn't, it's not the same. Here's our grade 4. So what we're seeing in NWA is we're seeing, while we'd like to see this nice upward trend, we are seeing this up and down year to year. Here's our grade 5. This is our current grade 6. Here's our current grade 7.
Dr. Forrest? Quite a difference between grade 6 and grade 7. I'm just going to go with this one right here. Does the administration, do you guys have any rhyme or reason why for 5 years running, grade 6 math scores are going down and grade 7s are going up? I mean, it's a different set of kids, I understand that, but that's a pretty good trend here, and it was a pretty poor trend the year before, and I'm just curious if you had any insight why that might be.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about, so this is grade 8. Did we get out of, sorry, I went the wrong direction. So you talked about grade 6. Well, there's definitely a drop from 3rd grade, for 4th and 5th of 53 and 52. So it's kind of, to me, this is kind of flat. One of the things we've looked at for some grade levels is the impact of COVID and when it hit for grades. But we've looked at that transition from 4th to 5th, and that we've sometimes seen more of a drastic jump between that. Or from 5th to 6th, because this is actually showing, because this is a fall test, it's really showing, it's more of a measure of the previous year. So seeing a drop from 5th to 6th. In 4th grade, we have 75 minutes for math. When they transition to middle school, they're down to 45 minutes a day for math. And so that's a piece of it. I'm just giving people time to look at it. I'm happy to answer questions. Yes. Yes, we can get very granular. We can get right down to the student, and you can pull this assessment apart and look at different pieces of it, geometry or algebra, number and operations. You can look at it by class. You can look at it by school. we don't bring that level of data here because then our numbers, we would potentially be violating FERPA because you could potentially figure out who. Yeah, we use it a lot for looking for patterns, trends. We look at it when we're looking at our programming. And here's our grade 8. This is a class that we feel was impacted by COVID because in fall of 2020, they would have just been coming back after being out of school. So their 4th grade got interrupted. Really important time for fractions. And then 2021 was a tough year, certainly at the middle school with managing and across all schools. But I think that this grade for math was probably impacted more than any other grade due to COVID. Yes.
I'm not sure if you mentioned this or not. Is this assessment given spring and fall, or is it just given in the fall?
We have an assessment schedule that was shared at the beginning of the year. So it depends on the level. The elementary gives it, elementary gives it 3 times a year. The middle school has been giving it in the fall and winter. They used to give it in the spring, but with the increase in state testing in middle school in the spring, they have to do reading, math, and science. So there's a lot of testing. So they stopped doing it in the spring. They're talking about potentially doing it again. They're nodding their heads back there. The high school has been doing it in the fall and the spring, and they're also looking to add some in the winter this year. So this information is available in your shared drive. There's a lot in there. As you look it over, if you have any questions, please feel free to outreach to me. Okay.
Thank you, Ann. I can personally speak to NWA and its value as an assessment tool. And I have lots of years of experience looking at NWA scores. And it really helps a classroom teacher take a look at their students, particularly if you want to drill down on any one student about a specific area, that you can do that. As a tool to evaluate a teacher, it's not a fair tool to use because classrooms change year to year and who you have in your classroom changes year to year. But as an instructional tool to look at what you can do to help an individual student, it's an excellent tool. I'm not overly surprised by the 8th grade considering what COVID did those years and the lack of really having specific classroom math instruction. The impact is obvious. So anyway, but thank you, Ann. Any other questions? It's a lot of data there. Superintendent.
So I just want to, and I know, and as Anne has already pointed out, this is not where we want to be, but it is better than where we were. particularly if you look at since COVID. So we are making a slow and somewhat steady recovery from COVID, and that's really important. Our students are still struggling with mental health issues that stem from their times at home. It's very interesting to see students who still are not really sure of how to interact with their peers. So just, it's not all bad news. There is good news there. And just to reflect on what Mr. Dunning said about NWEA, NWEA is a excellent assessment. We have 20 years, 20 or longer, 25 years of history, and it is not a test that, or not an assessment that is not something the students are familiar with, as well as the ability for it to be computer adaptive. So a student gets a question, they answer that question successfully, they get a more difficult question. If they don't answer it successfully, they get a little bit easier question. It really helps us hone in on where is the student performing and where are they struggling. So that's all.
Thank you. Old business, FY25 proposed budget.
Sorry, shut this off. Related to revenue. So this is the information related to the revenue forecast. I'm going to let Brian talk about it from here. We still do have some things that we are working on regarding the trusts and recommendations for trust targets. And those we will definitely have for budget and property on Monday and here for you on Tuesday.
So revenues are very difficult to predict at this point until we get our official numbers from the state on the 15th, which is our adequacy funding. I've guesstimated and forecasted. Generally when I forecast a little on the conservative side. Because if we overestimate our revenues, then at the end of the year, that becomes a problem. It ends up being a shortfall, which is made up through the fund balance. So right now, what I went through this with Kimberly and to try to get an idea where we would be. The top half, the 1,000 to 3,000 to 4,000s are pretty spot on. It's when you get to the unreserved fund balance, it's very difficult to predict what we're going to have at the end of the year at this point. Last year, you also had some transfers, and we also have just over $1 million that you'll be giving back at the end of the year if you do not use what we retained. So that will skew the numbers as well. So I just put in a rough number of 500,000 for fund balance. We also agreed at the workshop that we'd look into up to $300,000 from the health maintenance fund to offset some of the costs there. But this will be a little more solidified after next week when those numbers come in. So, and I will, as soon as those numbers come in, whether it's always on the 15th, but it could be 6 at night, could be 8 in the morning. And then what I'd like to do is I like to double check the numbers too, because sometimes they have made mistakes in the numbers they give us as a student based upon enrollment on what we've reported this year.
Unreserved fund balance, why 500,000? We've done 250 for the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Because right now you're sitting on $1 million right now that you will be giving back at the end of the year, that you retained from last year.
Elaborate. So one of the things that Brian and I talked about is that we have had $250,000 in there for the last 5 years, and over the last 5 years, our average is over $800,000 in what we're actually giving back. So rather than give it back, but have the tax rate be set higher initially, and then use the unreserved fund balance to lower it, this is doing that upfront. So this is saying, look, we know we're gonna have at least 500,000 to give back, so in that case, we'll be able to lower that piece a little bit. I mean, and that's a number that you as a board can, you can, decide, look, Kimberly, we want you to, put $750,000 in there. What you need to know is that once you put it in there, then there is no other option. That is what you have to give. You have to give that back. You can't retain any of the fund balance up to that or anything like that. You have to give at least that much back, which means you have to have it in the fund balance to give, or else actually there's no option. You have to have it in the fund balance to give, or you have to freeze the budget until you do. So you can play with that number, and it does, other districts do play with that number to work their district assessment number down percentage wise. But that has to be a board decision.
I mean, and it's very early to lock in any numbers. Ultimately, it's your choice what you want to put in there. But we won't have the full numbers until next week.
I was looking for your rationale, because it was a change, so. For now.
Unless you guys have more direction.
Any other questions from board members? Jim?
I'd just like to make a comment. This is for the public, anybody listening. We did meet on Saturday, we reviewed the budget for the first time. And we've got still got a lot of homework to do, but this week you'll see the first of our world acclaimed financial article series coming out. We're gonna have one on just the overall process. We talked about the dates before, that'll be in the first one. The next two will be one will be on your tax bill. As soon as we get all the tax rates set for all the towns, we'll be publishing a financial article explaining what your December tax bill will look like and why it looks like it does. Third one's going to be on the recently agreed upon and soon to be press released agreement with the union. We've agreed, I don't know if everybody knows it, but we have agreed to both the board and the union have agreed to a modification third year of the contract, basically to try to recruit and do a better job recruiting and retaining teachers. And we're going to have a short press release on that this week, and next day or so it should be going out. And we'll have a follow-up with a little more detail on another article. We'll have probably the fourth article after we get the budget locked down in January. We'll have a more detailed discussion of the details of the budget, and then we got to have one on the warrant articles, the trust fund warrant articles, and then we're going to have probably a separate one on the consolidation, whatever we do on that. So, a lot of stuff coming your way.
Any other questions on the budget, board members? Seeing none? New business policy, first read. Catherine, you want to?
I think that if anyone has any questions, we have 3 first read policies: JBAB, transgender and nonconforming policy and procedure; AC, our non-discrimination, equal opportunity employment and discrimination and anti-discrimination district plan; and BDE, committees and school board member special duty assignments. So we did revamp, especially the school board special duty assignments, around how we're currently conducting board business. So if anyone has any comments on any of these policies, please send them to me. Otherwise, they will go to a second read, and at that time we can adopt them, or if before, we can make any changes the board sees fit.
Thank you, Catherine. Could I have a motion to accept a gift and a donation at South Meadows School? Someone want to bring that motion forward? Janine?
I move that we accept the donation for South Meadows School, for the activity request authorization from the Monadnock Country Club in the amount of $800 with gratitude. Second.
I had a motion and a second. All in favor? Any questions first? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions. food service.
So one of the other issues we're gonna be dealing with this year is, increased food costs. So that's going to be, usually in the spring is when we decide the costs, any changes in the food pricing, for students. But this year, I'm really gonna dig in deep into what we're getting back from the federal government, as well as the state, but also what we're bringing in. Last year, we actually had a late bill of $200,000 for food service. And the reason why that was, at the end of the year, you do a reconciliation, we sold a lot more meals than we had predicted. So, now the good part was, of that $200,000, we had it because we had sold more meals and we got reimbursed more from the government. So, but those changes, those costs of the meals do change from year to year. So, I'm gonna dig into a little deeper into that, before we kind of finalize those numbers as well, and that's gonna be part of the revenue. We do make, the most profitable part that we sell in food service is à la carte, which is anything outside of a regular meal. So that, actually is getting more popular, which is good. But we also want to make sure that, our free and reduced are solid, because that's where we get a lot of our funding. So we've been pretty good about getting that number back up since COVID. We continue to do so. We're still getting applications in now, and it's been very well. A lot of people have put in applications. A lot of people have been approved, which is great. We try to get that done before October 1st, because that's when the state draws the line, and that's when they take our numbers and decide what we're going to get for free and reduced funding, which is several $100,000 a year. So,
Catherine?
Can I ask how the new education funding formula with free and reduced lunch interacts with our plan, since it's an October 1st cutoff?
I actually have the whole process broken out in boxes from the state. I can actually forward that to you if you want. Forward to everybody if you like. And it gives you the left side of the formula, the right side of the formula, and all that stuff. So, because they have taken out third grade reading, but they still do free and reduced and ESOL. That's a big part of it. So,
Any other questions for Brian on food service? All right, seeing none. Sorry, thank you. Second opportunity for public to speak to the board. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board at this time? Okay, seeing that there isn't, do we have a non-public tonight? All right, could I have a motion to move into non-public, please?
Sure, I move that we go into non-public session under RSA 91A:3, Roman 2, under personnel, please.
Aaron?
Thank you for coming. Yeah, why don't we take a 5-minute break for the okay, good. This is more little. Let's see.